Here is the part 2 of the narration about the top clubs and how much they have changed during the outgoing summer. In this video we will talk about 3 teams that definitely transformed the most. The past few months visibly showed that the brand of Barcelona remains pretty strong, attractive and popular, despite all the financial and organizational woes. The transfer of Robert Lewandowski, who moved from the prosperous Bayern, is the main testimony of it. So what prompted the Pole to swap the well-functioning side for the struggling one? Well, in few words, it was exactly this: the strength and popularity of the brand. There is no secret that Lewandowski is aiming to win the Ballon d'Or, and it's also well documented that he felt that Bayern didn't support him vigorously enough in this sense in the past. Robert definitely has reasons to believe that his former club did let him down, as applied to the most prestigious individual accolade, given how little the phlegmatic and subdued bosses of the perennial Bundesliga champions used to advertise their stars. One simple fact: Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, who won the Ballon d'Or in the distant 1981, to this day remains the last Bayern player who has been able to do it. Since that moment, there were 6 other cases when the representatives of the club had clear chances to repeat this feat, but nothing came of it. Let's be fair, Oliver Kahn in 2001 and 2002 should blame himself at first, after soundly losing to Michael Owen and Ronaldo respectively in the crucial showdowns. But there is another side of the coin. Jürgen Klinsmann in 1995 convincingly outscored George Weah both on a club and international level, but became the victim of weak promotion. The same goes to Frank Ribéry in 2013, Manuel Neuer in 2014 and Lewandowski himself in 2021. Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi have beaten the Bayern stars in all the cases courtesy to 2 things: their personal popularity and through the massive support from their respective clubs. The truth is that Real and Barcelona not only have way more political weight and media influence, but also deploy it much more willingly, whereas the style of Franz Beckenbauer and Uli Hoeneß in the past, and Oliver Kahn along with Hasan Salihamidzic nowadays, was always based rather on observing than on public support of their best players, and taking it into account, there is no wonder that Bayern had so little major success in the Ballon d'Or voting in the several past decades. It's obvious that Lewandowski thinks that if he duplicates his achievements on the pitch in the Barca shot, he will have a better shot at the most prestigious individual prize, bearing in mind that he will receive much more active support from his new club. Besides that, the longevity of his contract was a big factor too. Whilst the penny-pinching German giants reluctantly offered him only a 1-year extension, at the Camp Nou he got effectively 3 more guaranteed seasons of big football. Robert's desire to try something new and the long-term aspiration of his wife Anna to live in a warmer country have been instrumental in the final decision as well. Anyhow, despite all the financial issues and uncertainty, Barcelona managed to spend a solid transfer campaign, and now Xavi has enough tools in his hands in order to build a pretty competitive team. The choice of tactical formation is a key question. Currently, both the classic 4-3-3 alignment and the modern 3-4-3 are looking viable. With the absence of Gerard Piqué, Jules Koundé should take his place in the starting 11. The Blaugrana will be more quick and agile. On the other hand, the plethora of high-profile central midfielders, it seems that Frenkie de Jong has solved his problems and is set to stay at Barcelona, must give Xavi an extra inspiration to play 3-4-3 at least regularly. His main task as of today is to bridge the gap in mobility and intensity with the best clubs and adjust the transitional defense, which always is an Achilles heel of the team that cultivates long possession. In this case, the upcoming matches against Bayern and Inter would be an acid test for Xavi and company, given that both Barca's opponents are fast-paced sides that are stably among leaders in Europe in terms of distance covered. To sum up, the Catalans have a big deal of potential. Moreover, the gap between them and the leading continental clubs isn't that big. Under these circumstances, the quality of the coaching work would be absolutely decisive. If Xavi will be capable to control physical and mental state of his squad as good as he feels the game itself, there is no doubt that a successful season awaits Barca, perhaps even pretty successful. Let's not forget that all the most prolific Blaugrana's Champions League campaigns recently have been right after the World Cup. As for Chelsea, the London-based club also didn't escape an upheaval this summer. The long and illustrious era of Roman Abramovich at the Stamford Bridge has abruptly ended due to political reasons, after 19 years full of trophies and lavish transfers. Given the change of ownership took a plenty of time and turned into an extremely painful process, a lot went wrong for the English club, and the transfer campaign so far could be rather characterized as feverish than the deliberate one. For instance, in the middle of July, Thomas Tuchel could count only on 2 central defenders, the extension of Cesar Azpilicueta's contract and the acquisition of Kalidou Koulibaly made this issue less poignant, but the lack of players in this zone remains. That's why Chelsea are so desperate to buy Wesley Fofana from Leicester and are even ready to make him the most expensive defender ever. The prohibition on registering new footballers surely made an impact and hindered the club's prospects, but by the end of August it's safe to say that Tuchel has enough resources to compete, especially if we recall that apart from 6 legitimate new signings to this date, the Blues returned from loan Conor Gallagher and Armando Broja. Actually, both already received some playing time. On top of that, the young Englishman who recklessly got a red card in the game versus Leicester already drew the ire of the manager. Gallagher is definitely not the only one footballer with whom the vindictive and hot-tempered Tuchel is dissatisfied. Earlier, Romelu Lukaku and Timo Werner left the club mainly due to the broken personal relationship with the German, who is not shy to criticize his players publicly and often uses offensive language. In this context, he could be compared with the irritable Louis van Gaal, whose tough personality in his career not once or twice has been his worst enemy and often distracted the teams he earlier created, courtesy to his taste of the game and almost exclusive knowledge. Speaking about Tuchel, it's worth remembering that in the last few years he has been fired from Borussia Dortmund and PSG due to disagreement with the leading board, despite more than decent sporting results. So far so good in the German's relationship with the new Chelsea owner Tom Bowley, but there are signs that his contact with the team is constantly deteriorating, and if after the rocky start to the season the Blues continue to stumble, the situation might become even worse, bearing in mind how precious is the place in the top four and how ardent the competition is, with much stronger Tottenham and Arsenal in the race. We should also recall that the fierce Thomas remains the only important figure in the club's hierarchy who retained his job after the recent takeover, and this fact should put an additional, mainly subconscious pressure on him. What will prevail in the end? Tuchel's tough personality or his pure professional skills, which certainly deserve a lot of credit. This is the biggest excitement of this Chelsea season for me. As for sheer football issues, the absence of legitimate strikers stands alone, but the German who after Zinedine Zidane took pause in his career perhaps is the second best passing coach in the world behind Josep Guardiola, is competent enough to solve this issue. Let's remember that the hallmark of the Blues recently has been unusual distribution of goals. The number of players who found the net was disproportionately large amid the low productivity of forwards. This shows how masterfully Tuchel creates the attacking play. Meanwhile, Raheem Sterling, who assumed the role of false nine, is accustomed to it since his Manchester City days and could become the focal point of offense on the regular basis. Among 7 major Champions League contenders, even among 10 if we add Atletico, Juventus and Tottenham to this list, PSG were the only side who opted for a risky move, the change of manager. Christophe Galtier has been brought to the Parc des Princes in order to instill discipline and improve the team mentally, physically and defensively. But the first several matches with him at the helm made a completely unexpected impact. Despite Galtier's established reputation of the pragmatic coach, the Parisians scored a bunch of goals, hitting Lille with 7, Montpellier and Clermont with 5, and Nantes in the Super Cup match with 4. This outstanding productivity should be explained by the dramatically raised fervor rather than by tactical adjustments, though it's evident that all the PSG players have a lot to prove, starting with the attacking trio. Neymar obviously is going to show how wrong were the team bosses trying to offload him earlier this summer. Lionel Messi wants to redeem himself after the last lackluster campaign, and Kylian Mbappé is eager to retain and even enhance his status of the number 1 star in the French capital. As a result, all 3 of them are in a scintillating form now, scoring almost at will. As for tactical novelties, Galtier brought the 3-4-3 alignment, trying to disguise the team's weak points, lack of movement and stamina, along with defensive frailties. At the back, Marquinhos and Presnel Kimpembe flank and support the veteran Sergio Ramos, whose experience and charisma still could be pretty useful, especially in the Champions League playoff that the Spaniard in his first season in Paris completely missed due to persistent injuries. At the goal, Gianluigi Donnarumma has been given a permanent preference over Keylor Navas after they battled out for the number 1 slot within almost a year. But the biggest changes occurred in midfield. All the holding players were effectively deemed not corresponding to the task. Jorginho Wijnaldum has been loaned out to Roma. Ander Herrera went to his former club Athletic Bilbao in the same mode as Leandro Paredes and Idrissa Gueye. They are also expected to leave the French capital before the end of August. As a replacement, PSG bought the Portuguese duo Vitinho from Porto and Renato Sanchez from Lille. The latter already worked under the guidance of Galtier there, and now are planning to get Fabian Ruiz from Napoli. This threesome should do a mega job in order to compensate the lack of work rate and distance covered that comes from the attacking trio. It's pretty feasible that in the important matches, the head coach of PSG will bench the diminutive Marco Verratti and will be playing with two pure defensive midfielders, or even increase this number of them to three at the expense of somebody from the attack, for instance Neymar. The upcoming Champions League games versus Juventus, who are still not easy to beat despite their current average form, and the flexible Benfica, will be a solid test for the new PSG and should show how far Galtier is capable to drive this team, and also demonstrate the tactical tools he has in his sleeve. At first, the club should trim the current squad though. No less than 7 well-known players are set to depart before August ends.